This is Six Tackles with Gus, with Matthew Thompson and Gus Gould.
Welcome to Six Tackles with Gus for another week. Great to be here. Heaps to talk about today. Part of the menu, I'm a centre, get me out of here. The Dragons and Zac Lomax to part ways at the end of the season. Where might he end up? The Tigers roar. Can they make it 3 in a row against the Dolphins? The Titans would be happy with just one. And Desi's hit the blow-up button. Plenty of Ask Gus questions and a bumper preview of round 5. Welcome, Gus.
Mat Thompson, how you doing?
Fighting fit.
Rugby League, the game that keeps on giving.
Rugby League.
The game that keeps on giving.
What do you got? You got a bit of mail this week or something, have you?
No.
Huh?
No, there's always something.
Did you like what I did there? I'm a centre, get me out of here.
Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah.
I'm a centre, get me out of here.
I thought that was clever.
I'm a celebrity, get me out of here. Yeah.
I know you're contracted to our great network, but you'd be good in the jungle.
I've never seen the show. I don't know the show.
I'd never really watched it either, but they just dump them in the jungle and
do they
try and survive.
Yeah, dump me into maths. That's where I want to go.
Yeah.
We'll sort them out.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that. You exclusively predicted on this podcast 3 weeks ago that Sarah and the other bloke would stay together.
Yeah.
And they've walked off the show together.
Yeah.
It's one of the great comebacks.
Read him like a race form, mate. He was the most gullible bloke I've ever seen in my life.
The 1,000,000 to 1 there to get it still, though.
Yeah. I can't believe that.
What
There's some gullible.
I know. And then,
anyway.
And then the other old mate, Gym Junkie.
Yeah.
And I forget
Tory.
the name. Tory. What's going on there?
Yeah, I worry about Tory.
Oh, Tory.
Anyway. I'm a centre, get me out of here.
Maths is over this year. Well, so the casting process for next year starts. How was your tipping last week?
All right, I think. I can never remember what I tipped, but,
I bet you did better than 2.
Yeah.
2 from 8. I live rugby league and I'm immersed in the game and I get 2 from 8.
Yeah. Well, but that's just the way footy is in the early part of the season. There's always ups and downs and reversals of form and got to read in behind it a little bit. But it'll settle down shortly. I always say the first 6 weeks, everyone wins one, everyone loses one. Well, everyone's lost one, but we need to get the Titans to win one. So which means they're getting closer. It will happen. They will win one in the next fortnight. Who are they playing?
The Cowboys and the Titans on Sunday, and you're calling it.
Yep.
They're up in Townsville.
I'll talk them home.
All right. We'll get your preview soon. Some big news this week, though, for Canterbury and the Warriors. NRLW franchises.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so the Bulldogs put in an outstanding presentation and have been awarded with an NRLW licence, which I think is really important for our area. The Canterbury local area is probably the most diverse and multicultural area, I think, in Sydney, and it's fanatical supporter base. And as I've said a number of times, every time we won junior league clinics, 50 or 60% of the young girls coming along to support the game. We've had junior rep teams in the Lisa Fiola Cup and Tasha Gale Cup for the last couple of years. The Harvey Norman Women's, which is an overaged competition as well, were in grand finals last year, and this year the Lisa Fiola are undefeated minor premiers, and the Tasha Gale are playing in the finals as well. So the grounding is there. The club's made an investment in it. Over the next 3 or 4 years, we will build at Belmore a new $50 million centre of excellence, which will be a shared facility between the NRL program and the NRLW program, which will keep the Bulldogs at Belmore as their spiritual home forever.
Mm-hmm.
And the NRLW is an important part of the overall strategy of the club going forward. So they're going to invest in it, and they're very serious about it. Naturally, in the embryo stage, it's hard to catch up to the great teams that have been in it and had a head start for a long time, but we'll, like our men's program, take a long-term approach to it and base it on development and base it on the good work that's already been done in pathways and junior league, and give young girls an area and an opportunity to come through and play in the blue and white with the Bulldog on the heart.
Can you fast forward 10 years for us? Where's women's rugby league at?
I think every NRL franchise will have a women's program, and I think they'll be curtain raisers to most NRL games.
Yeah.
I think that's the plan down the track.
Because we've followed here at Nine, the development and the evolution of women's rugby league the last 5 years or so, and it's not even recognisable, the standard from now to day one.
Yeah.
So in 10 years' time, with all the development systems that are in place and upskilling and that sort of stuff, like you can imagine how far beyond even now the standard of the footy's going to become.
But it goes all the way to government, corporates, sponsorship, community. Everyone. One of the first questions that comes out of their mouths is, "What are we doing for the women's program? What are we doing for women? What are we doing for?" And that's a whole new thing for. Football clubs just weren't like that 20 years ago.
No way.
And there's a whole range of things that have got to be taken into account there, from education, welfare, medical, facilities. And everything else that's got to be provided to run a professional women's program. As I say, like the funding for our new Centre of Excellence coming forward, I don't think would have been possible unless it was a shared facility with a women's program. So that's where the governments have encouraged that, corporates have encouraged it. It's got its own set of sponsors and its own set of fans, and it's another avenue for people who want to be involved in professional sport, and that's people in administration, people in sports management, people in strength and conditioning, sports science, coaching. It's a way for coaches to get in with professional sport, development programs, development coaches, junior league coaches. It opens up a whole new world. It's quite amazing what's happened.
My oldest son wants to get into the high performance fitness space. So for people like him, it's
very competitive, but all the sports, the women's game just doubles the opportunities.
Yeah,
and I think that'll be a world trend. No risk in the world. I mean, look, it's another sport, but look at what the Matildas have done.
Well, many people believe they're our number one national team now.
Well,
on international performance level,
it opens the way for people to say that.
Yeah,
obviously, but it's. Women's sport, it's not going away, mate. It's here to stay.
And I'll tell you what else is exciting. The news that has come through the last 24 hours or so, that the Sydney Roosters have signed an American player to their NRLW roster. So she's a star of the US Rugby Sevens team. Her name is Liz Tafuna. And she will arrive in Sydney in June and start training with the Roosters and feature in the NRLW. And a couple of and these players have come through the talent combine. So they were exposed to the NRL clubs. A Canadian forward called Megan Pekoulis and a US back called Makaya Bayless played in the national championships this year and have also toured a few of the NRLW setups with a view to signing on. So
rugby,
this is very exciting.
Rugby Sevens is an Olympic sport.
Yes.
And we'll be over there in Paris this year. And I would imagine there will be a number of talent scouts watching that with interest, because those girls will be off contract when the Olympics are over. And it's a way for our competition here to attract that. And as more money comes into that, it's going to make it an opportunity for these girls to have a profession in professional sport. It's great. The girls are so passionate about it. They really are.
You should come to Paris on a scouting trip and call the Rugby Sevens.
I'll be here doing the rugby league, mate. That's about my level. Paris is a bit above my pay grade.
Oh, turn it up. Turn it up. Cheese and red wine will be right up your alley. Most impressive team round 4, Gus?
Oh, there's a couple. Bronco, very good.
Very good.
Panther, outstanding, even allowing for the players they had missing. But Tiger.
Oh, how good. How good.
You're on your lounge cheering for them, aren't you?
I was in the car cheering for them.
Yeah, it's just great. I love seeing young blokes do well.
But they won on their own merits. Well, they played sensational footy.
They had no right to win it. It wasn't brilliance that got them home, although they had some brilliant moments. It was sheer determination. I mean, the way they defended in that first half. And, we said on this show last week, I said there was a real opportunity for an upset here because Mitchell Moses is a huge hole out of that Parramatta side. I made the point. It's a huge hole that cannot be replaced, and they won't replace it, and they didn't. And I felt like Parramatta played with a urgency would have been better than frantic. I thought Parramatta were frantic. They wanted that game over early. They wanted to get to the front and have Tigers frustrate themselves out of it, and they were so frantic about what they did to the point where they just ran out of energy. They just threw so much at the Tigers. Tigers stood resilient.
Tigers had a bloke in the bin for 10 minutes.
Yeah, and just kept coming back. I thought it was brilliant. And the young fella that we've highlighted, that we've seen coming through the junior reps for some times in Lachlan, has shown his class again. You know, and it's very early in his career, and I don't want to put pressure on these kids and that, because there are going to be challenges for him. It's not always going to be clear sailing, but every now and then an 18-year-old kid comes along, they throw him into first grade, and he just looks like he's been there his whole life, and he looks very comfortable in his own skin. And there's a kid who looks very, very comfortable and confident in his own ability, and it rubs off on other players. You know, they've got some really good young talent there in that West Tigers side. I've been sticking up for them for 18 months in the face of a lot of unfair criticism. Well, just it's cliche criticism, cliche media, cliche criticism.
Gee, the Hooker's a player.
Yeah, champion player. Great bloke too. Great bloke too. He held them together. And all their forwards worked hard. When you saw the stats out of the game, all their forwards played and shared equal minutes and equal runs and equal tackles and really worked hard. You can't do that unless you've got a pack of forwards that are doing that. And the rest of them just tried really hard. They were terrific. The fullback's a player. She's a player. Jareem.
Was Arpy the player of the week, Gus? Or there was a few candidates.
Yeah, there was.
Carrigan, it feels like 2 years ago, but Carrigan was unreal.
Patrick, he really took up the thing for the Bronco. I think Coruscant. Yeah. They don't win without Coruscant.
No.
He held them together.
Is he the best hooker in the game? I mean, I know Harry Grant is.
Well, there's none more influential. There's none more influential on his team than he is at the moment. You know, they're all good hookers. They're all good players, and they've all got their own traits. You know, hookers, the one thing where they're all a bit diverse. You know, they're different sort of skill sets. But
he's got the whole game. He's a rock solid defender, but he's got that brilliant attacking game,
calming influence.
Yeah,
you know,
his trickery from dummy half,
confidence.
Yeah,
he's got a confidence. He's got an air of confidence and serenity about him. There's no panic there's never any panic in Appy. You know, even games last year where they got flogged, there was never any, woe is us and why is it always happening? There was none of that. There was never any here we go again. It was kind of like, we'll be right. Let's get back to what we're good at. And he's really good at that.
Yeah, he's been invaluable for them. Okay.
He's won a couple of premierships. He knows what he's doing. Yeah.
Of course. And it's probably credit to Penrith. They've taken him out of that team, and yet they still were able to win the comp last year, which is a amazing credit to them.
Yes! No. Dear.
Gus, I sent a tweet in excitement the other night when the Cowboys and the Broncos played. I said, greatest tackle ever. So my question to you is, Tom Dearden's tackle on Selwyn Cobbo is the greatest tackle ever. Yes! Thanks, Gussie.
That's just to make you feel better.
That's the best tackle ever.
Well, it's the most recent in memory. It was a brilliant tackle, a brilliant chase, a wonderful chase.
Oh.
A wonderful chase from a beaten team. It was a wonderful chase because he was never going to get there. And there would have been a lot of players who would have looked across and seen Cobbo at full tilt and thought, well, I'm not going to get there, and half gone through the motions of just keeping him out wide. So they had to kick from the sideline. You know, they'd half get across there. Dearden hit top pace as soon as he could, and he never relented. He never slowed down. And it wasn't until the last 5-10 metres I thought he might get there. He might just make contact. Not only did he make contact, but he made contact enough to wheel him out over the sideline. And you could see Cobbo was starting to strain a little bit. He was nearly on the treadmill by the time he got to the end. And Dearden was still going. Like, Dearden just kept coming. His fitness, strength, determination, desire, everything you want. And turn around and find out that all his teammates let him down.
Did they? What? For all the people that tweeted back and said, oh, hello, Scott Sattler. Great friend of mine, Sats. Even Sats would admit that's a better tackle than his.
Well, Sats was at a big moment in a big game. I mean, like, they're all great tackles. But that was brilliant. That was absolutely brilliant. I guess when Cobbo got the ball, we all thought, well, good night. He's gone. And Dearden started the crossfield, and most of us thought, well, he's just trying to keep the conversion out wide, which you're supposed to do. You've got to chase. He just put his head down and turned the legs over and really rocketed after him. Brilliant chase. And thankfully the football gods were watching because they gave him a reward. They got halfway through that, the football gods, and said, you know what?
Yeah.
He needs a reward, this kid. And they got him there.
It's funny how they make their mind up.
No, they fix up bunker decisions. They fix up referee decisions. They fix up, people get it. The football gods see it. You watch it. A team will get a penalty they don't deserve. What happens? First tackle, so they knock it off.
Drop the ball.
Yeah, drop it all. Yeah.
They're weird.
They fix it. They're watching.
Yeah.
Footy gods never get it wrong.
Strange animals. I think you mentioned this on 100% footy. Sometimes some of those Cowboys don't deserve Tom Dearden. How frustrating are they?
Well, they're an anomaly.
They are a dead set dry track team. They did not play wet weather football at all the other night, did they?
Yeah,
they dropped a million balls.
I don't know that it's that. I think they've got such brilliant attacking potential. Sometimes that eats into their resolve defensively. I think they're kind of at the mentality, well, if you score 5, we'll score 6. As I said on 100% footy the other night, if they were playing the top team in the competition and I didn't see the game and someone after the game said, Cowboys scored 30 against the Panthers, I wouldn't be surprised.
No, of course not.
It would not shock me at all. But, and it also wouldn't shock me if they got beaten scoring 30 points, which could have easily happened the other night.
Would you be looking for them to rein it in though? Like in those that was an absolute downpour the other night, but they don't seem to adjust their game to the circumstances.
They scored enough points to win. They just kept conceding points.
Yeah,
that was the problem. The Broncos were very good, but there's two sides to this game. There is a part of the game where you've got possession, and there is a part of the game where they've got possession. If you don't control how and where they get their possession, you've got no control over the way they play football. If I control where you get the ball, if you get the ball where I want you to have it, how I want you to get it every time, then I've got some control over the sort of football that you play.
Yep.
If I've got no control how you get it, if I'm giving it to you from penalties, drop balls, turnovers, scrum wins, 20-metre taps, if I'm giving it to you with stuff that you can go home and rehearse and get ready with, I've got no control over what you're going to do. Therefore, all advantages with them. And that's the game of chess that is rugby league. It is controlling, when I say control the ball, it's controlling where your opposition gets it, how they get it, and what they can do with it. I can actually dictate the majority of the game. Now, what happens then is the only way that'll change is if I miss a tackle, I drop a ball, referee gives a penalty, and it changes the dynamic of the game. But if I'm disciplined and I'm giving the ball and you go a long way towards having a better defence. But if I don't care who you are, if you are constantly giving the ball to them in those sort of positions and not responding to it and not being willing to defend your error or defend your ill discipline, then in this game, you are in big trouble. Sides will run 30, 40 up against you in a heartbeat. The good teams are so good. They're just so good. They don't miss. That's why we've got a big difference between the best and the rest in this competition. Still. Anyway, Cowboy needs to work out what happens when the opposition's got the ball. More importantly, they need to control where and how the opposition get the ball because they're not at the moment. They're more interested in when they've got possession. Same goes with the Titans. Titans have been like that for years. Love having the ball, not so fussed when the opposition's got the ball. That's what Des will fix eventually.
If he wanted.
It won't happen overnight, but it will happen.
That was a famous shampoo ad, wasn't it?
Like trying to change things. It's like getting up in the morning and wanting to part your hair on the other side of your head. By lunchtime, what's happened? It's gone back the way it was because that's what you used to.
Sorry, say that again?
Well, if you get up in the morning and decide I'm going to part my hair on the other side of my head, men don't have parts.
Who would do that?
Well, some people do.
What, they just wake up and change their hairstyle?
Yeah.
But really?
Women do it all the time.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, but men can do it. But men don't really part their hair these days. Well, they shave it in, don't they?
You've hit on a real sore point in our house because my kids are obsessed with their hair.
Really?
Like they go to the barber and they have a photo
of what they want it to look like.
Yeah,
right.
And they get these weird cuts now where they leave them long at the front and like they shave it.
Terrible cuts.
And I said, just get a proper bloody haircut. And they said, well, Dad, what would you know? I say, well, I know what a sensible haircut is. You pay $40 for a haircut. It doesn't even look like they've had their haircut.
Yeah, get used to that comment. You're going to hear it for a long time.
But are you with me? What about the football players' hairstyles?
Yeah.
What are they doing? They know they're on television.
That's why they get a cup like that, because they are on television. Because they are on television.
What, look like idiots? They want to get their hair cut like idiots.
Well, they don't see it as idiots.
Well, this is what I mean.
They see it as fashionable.
Well, I beg to differ.
Well, they see it as fashionable.
My oldest told me he wants to get what are these, your eyebrows? An eyebrow thing. I said, mate, you do that, you're not coming to my house.
Beards.
He reckons he's going to turn 18 and get a tattoo. That won't be happening.
Give in, mate. Give in. You've got no control. You've got no control.
You just went through talking about how important control is.
I've got a song I'll play you later just to show you've got no control. Okay. None. Zero. Zilch. Zip. None.
I've got to hold on to some element of control.
If you don't bend, you'll break. Bend with the breeze, my man.
Chans or RTS at fullback for the Warriors? Well, hang on. That's not a yes or no. RTS at fullback for the Warriors. Yes! That's I forgot it was yes or no. So his name Chans there, and the coach said very stridently last week that he is our fullback and this is the way we're going to play.
Probably, and I'd say Roger knew that coming in when he came back from rugby. And Chans,
he had a bumpy
there was a
last
time
year.
when Chans was at Canberra, and for whatever reason he had to move from Canberra. I think it might have been salary cap related, or they were looking for other positions or something. And he was kind of being shopped as a fullback potential centre. So he's actually got that in his repertoire as well. He can play both, and Roger can play both. But I think Roger came back to the Warrior knowing that that was the role, to play centre. Now, it's a wonderful replacement if ever Chans is out, as he showed on the weekend. But, Chans, there's different types of fullbacks in this game, and Chans is a high work rate, high energy, tough, resilient defender, organises the defence well, safe under the high ball, safe in the in-goal with grubber kicks, works hard off the ball, comes in and runs the ball for his forwards. He's a great player. He's a really good player. And he was there all last year when they went through and did what they did and made the top four. So I don't think the coach is going to.
Sorry, you answered yes to RTS at fullback.
I said he can play fullback, yeah.
So,
but if you want to say RTS or Chans, I think the coach is right.
Chans at fullback.
Status quo. Go back to the status quo. Chans was the fullback at the start of the year. Roger was playing centres.
Yeah. He's robust, Chans, isn't he?
Yeah. If you were asking me, should they pick RTS at fullback at the Warriors if Chans is available?
No.
No. That's what I'm saying.
That's what you're saying.
Clarity.
Yeah. Well, that's a luxury.
Yeah.
He's played for New Zealand in the centres, Chans. Speaking of fullbacks, Tristan Sailor needs to play full-time NRL.
Yes! Well, it would be so handy. Every club's got players like this, that are not going to get any better playing state league. They're only going to get better if they're exposed more and more to NRL. And development is my passion. That is my real passion, is developing kids and coming through from the lower grades from 14, 15 years of age, coming through the stages of development. And when do we play them against men, and when do we play them and this and that? What positions do we play them in? Left, right side of the field, physical, mental, skill, emotional, all the things that we work to these kids to get them to the point where they're ready to play against men. They handle that. They're now ready to be pushed out of their comfort zone, play in state league against men and ex-players and current NRL players, now into the NRL. The problem is spots in the NRL are so hard. It's so hard to make it. It's so hard. And if you're playing in a really strong club like the Broncos, where he's only going to get a run every now and then, all right, there's advantages to that and there's disadvantages to that. Now, if Tristan Sailor was to go and play fullback full time, that might be with a club that's down the bottom of the ladder, that's conceding 30 points on average a game a week, and he is not going to develop into the player that he needs to be. All right, he's going to learn a lot of bad habits down there and exposed very heavily to a lot of stuff that he's not going to handle. So the development of players, you've got to be really lucky about the club you're in at the time, depending on what position you are and what you're playing, and who you'll learn. You learn most off the players you play with and against. Coaches play a huge role. Your staff play a huge role. But ultimately, it's that experience, time at the crease, out there in the field of battle with the players that you're playing with and playing. That's where you learn most of your football. That's the experience part of it and the self-confidence and the self-belief.
Do you know the best example of that's Nico Hines?
Nico Hines, same thing. Now, but, you can make a mistake by picking a player, from a strong team and putting him in a weaker club, whether or not he's going to get any better for that, playing in a weaker team. Right at the moment, Tristan's in a strong club. He gets his opportunity. He plays in a strong state league, and that keeps him up to the mark. But he would benefit greatly from playing regular NRL in a good side, right? Playing with a poor side is going to be very, very difficult for him, very difficult to improve. That's just the facts. That's as I've seen development for a long, long time. Now, if you look at all the teams in the competition, who needs a fullback? Pretty strong right across the board, aren't we? In pretty much every club. And every club's got someone who can probably fill in that role as well. So Tristan Sailor desperately needs to be playing regular NRL football. But where would that be? And would he be better off at a losing club just playing NRL for the sake of it? That's it's an interesting thing. That's why
talking to players.
That's why some of those players go to the UK Super League.
Well, yeah.
And really make a name for themselves over there.
Is that a hard argument to sell when you're talking to players?
Going to UK?
Well, it's not so much that. Like, over the years, when you've spoken to players saying, look, you're better off being an understudy to Reece Walsh and learning your stripes a bit and just holding fire.
Oh, yeah.
Like, do they find that hard to understand? Yeah.
The most obvious one that I can think of was Jerome Luai at Panthers, because at a time I remember we bought James Maloney.
Yep.
And I thought James Maloney would be great for the club and great for the group. And I actually sat down. There was Dylan Edwards, Nathan, Jerome Luai, Tyron May, I think Sean O'Sullivan. There was a few of them there. I took one and I said, look, we're going to buy James Maloney for this reason, and it's going to be to the benefit of all of you, but a couple of you are going to feel like you're being held back a little bit, and we wanted him to play with Nathan especially. And Jerome had big offers to go to other clubs because he was an outstanding junior player. But I said, stick, mate. It'll be better for you in the long term if you do. And thankfully that's turned out the way it has. And that's not my doing, that's Jerome's doing, because he showed the patience and he worked hard on his craft, and now he's one of the top ones in the game. But there is a time that there are plenty of other examples. I've got some young players, and I've had young players over the years where I've thought, gee whiz, I'd love to send him to England for 12 weeks just to go over there and play some top-level league over there, which is the state league's not doing him any justice at the moment. I'd rather play him in the UK Super League there for 12, but there's no avenue to do that.
Why can't we organise that?
Well, if we owned it, we could.
Yeah, but that would be that would be the best. That would be would that not be an easy thing to organise with the NRL?
You would think so, wouldn't you?
But that would be exciting for a club. We're going to send blah blah to England for 12 weeks.
Even at times I've thought I would love to. Back in the day, I would love to send him to one of the teams down the bottom of the ladder and send him just for 6 weeks and get some NRL football into him, so he gets 70 or 80 minutes in the top grade, and then he'll be right when he comes back to us and he can play. I think there's a trade system and an opportunity there. I don't want him playing for 12 months in a badly beaten team, but 3 or 4 weeks just might be helpful to get him enough game time at this speed. Which is different to the state league. There's a whole.
But I can see the barrier to going to another NRL club, but not going to another comp. But we should have a pathway. I mean, the seasons line up now.
If we owned it, we would. Tristan Sailor is not going to get any better playing state league. He needs to play NRL football or go to England and be an absolute superstar for 12 months until a fullback spot opens up at one of the top clubs and comes in. If he was to move just to play regular NRL, he'd have to be careful about what environment he went into at the moment, right? You got those 2 young kids at the Gold Coast. Well, they got 3 fullbacks. They got Brimson, they got Campbell, and they got young Keeney, right? They're all super talents, all right. But do you feel like any of them are developing there at the moment?
Well, no,
because the rest of the team is just not. The rest of the team is just not working. But if they went off and played at Panthers, if they went off and played at Melbourne, if they went off and played at Roosters, don't you think they would develop?
Jaden Campbell would be a star.
Be a star in any of those teams. Be an absolute star in any of those teams. Young Keeney could be a star anywhere. Brimson would be a star. Brimson's played Origin.
Brimson's
right?
a good player.
So it's just where you are at that time. And that's nothing against the Gold Coast. It's just how the team is performing at the moment. Right? So, so it's not just playing NRL. It's where you put yourself and who you're playing with. And for a lot of kids, sometimes I say UK is a really good option. If you want to see the world and experience some life and really grow.
Oh, the UK's all time.
UK, and we could make the UK so much better and so more attractive. We could make that experience so more attractive than what it probably feels like to them over there at the moment.
Geez, you're up and about today.
Well, you started it. You asked about Tristan Sailor, who I honestly believe.
He's a good player.
I flew to Queensland last year to watch Tristan Sailor in a game. Watched him play.
Was it
He played
Queensland
for,
Cup game?
He
or?
played for Logan, did he?
South Logan.
South Logan. Yeah, he played for Logan out at, what's the Manly team? The
Wynnum Manly.
Wynnum Manly.
Yeah.
I went out there. Lovely little setup.
Cougarai? Was it Wynnum at home?
Yeah, Wynnum at home. Yeah. Lovely little area.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very, very good.
Fatty come from out there, didn't he?
Yeah, the King played for Wynnum too.
Did he?
And Gene Miles.
Yeah. Lovely little ground, lovely little clubhouse. Sat up in the air conditioning behind the mirror. Had
You
a
can
steak sandwich.
Sit up there and have a beer and a steak sandwich while the
There was
footy's
a
on.
tab there. Had a bet on the races.
Did you?
Yeah.
We should move there.
It was wonderful.
Sounds
Went down the bistro and had some dinner.
Sounds like the best joint in the world.
It was terrific. It was during Magic Round last year.
Oh, there
So
you
instead
go.
of going to Magic Round at Suncorp, I went out to Wynnum
Wynnum
Manly
Manly.
and spoke to the grassroots, mate.
When I was calling Queensland Cup footy years ago, you couldn't put a commentary facility up in the grandstand, so we had a caravan that would go to various grounds. And at Wynnum, the only place they could put it was in the in-goal area
All right.
at the so if you're at the
Not the club end, the other end.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the first game we did there was Wynnum versus the PNG Hunters, and the Hunters were running towards us, and we're at one end of the ground.
Yeah.
How do you reckon we went trying to pick those players out?
You'd have to make it up.
Not a hope in hell. They all look exactly the same, and they're all built like Sherman tanks, and they're all the same height. We're going good today. We're still on yes, no. Zac Lomax will be a New South Wales winger for Origin 1.
No. Well, how do you want to break? Will he? No. Could he be? Yes. I have no problem picking him. I think he's Origin class. I think he's an Origin class centre. Obviously there's great competition for those positions, and getting picked for Origin is at the top of the tree when you're getting to elite talent. Do I think he would excel in Origin football? Yeah, I do. I've always believed that, and I've said that to Origin teams over the last few years. Don't be afraid to pick him.
But he is playing so well on the wing.
Well. He's talented. Now for some reason he doesn't want to be a winger, even though he's extremely well paid and he's having an impact. They kick for him regularly. He comes up with the ball on kick chase more than any other player in the game at the moment. He is the new Jared Croker of rugby league. Jared Croker had the mantle of the best kick chaser in rugby league. Zac Lomax is clearly the best kick chaser in the game right now. But he's got other strings to his bow, and he's actually, because he's big and he's solid, I've even toyed with the look of him and thinking, what do you look like in 3 or 4 years' time? You might be a right edge back rower. He's a fierce defender. He makes people drop the ball. He forces turn. I think he's a really good player. I've never met. I interviewed Zac once out at Allianz Stadium before a game, an Anzac Day game, down in the dressing room. Seemed like a pleasant enough lad, but I've never had a conversation with him. I know nothing about him personally, but he's a very, very talented footballer. For whatever reason, footballers sometimes get this: I don't want to be a winger. I want to be a centre. And that's where he is at the moment. And
but the curious thing about this is, and I'm not sure that I've seen. I mean, you've seen most things in the game. So the Dragons have announced they're going to let him go at the end of the year, but he's playing outstanding football in a position he doesn't want to play. It's strange. I mean, you watch him play and you think this bloke's heart is in this club and heart His heart is in the job he's been given,
Well,
yet he wants out.
What he is a professional footballer. That's how professional footballers should be, regardless of what's happening on and off the field or what have you. Doesn't matter if he turns around and plays him lock forward or plays him hooker or dummy. It doesn't matter. When the coach picks you, your job as a professional footballer is to go out and perform for the team.
Yeah.
And Zac, to me, strikes me as a player that is prepared to do that. So whatever is going on personally or whatever disappointment he's having, and it's obvious. I spoke to his manager this morning about a number of different things. And the boy said, how's Zac? I've never met Zac. How's he going? And he said, well, this is just what he wants to do. So it's very real. I doubt he's going to be playing at the Dragons next year. And there's plenty of interest in him with other clubs. He's on a very big contract because I think at the time, the last time he was contracted, I think there had been approaches for him, and I think Paul McGregor was the coach, and he had floated the idea of playing fullback. As I've said to you many times, when you get a list of off-contract players,
They're all fullbacks.
They're all fullbacks or centres. There's no wingers on the list. Prime example, a young fella coming through the system at Panthers where was Dallin Watene-Zelezniak, who was a young fullback, right? And that's where he wanted to play. And as he was sort of coming through the grades, mostly they get their opportunity on the wing. I don't want to be a winger. I don't want to be a winger. I don't want to be a winger. So they gave him some runs in the centres and they gave him some runs at fullback and he filled in here and there. And I said, where's he playing now?
He's winger.
He's on the winger. And what is he? He's one of the top wingers in the game, leading try scorers and everything, because he's now found comfort in his role for the team and how dynamic he is at it. And the wingers are so important to the game these days. For some reason, footballers have had this connotation that being a winger is not good enough. We've had some champion wingers that influence results.
Maybe in the 1980s or 70s.
But
if you're a winger, you sort of get the piss taken out of you a bit. Not so much anymore.
No, wingers are so important. They're so important. But Dallin, I don't know who puts this in their heads as young fellas coming through. They don't want to be I don't want to be a winger. I don't want to be a winger. I want to be a centre.
Well, it's got to be money related, doesn't it?
Well, but wingers get well paid nowadays. Now from a salary cap perspective, whether the Dragons can be affording that contract for him to play in that position and shore up other positions that they need, and I think they're in a pretty good space salary cap wise going forward. But Zac's indicated that he wants to go, and they've probably made a commercial decision based on his salary and the position he's playing and what they could do to fill that position. See, it was different when Ben Hunt wanted to go. How do you replace Ben Hunt?
Yeah.
I mean, you take Ben Hunt out of that side and it's, the rudder falls off. So I can understand them sticking their dig on Ben Hunt and saying, well, no, we purchased you here in this contract and we're paying good money and, you're not disadvantaged, you've got to stay. Well, fine. All right, that's one attitude. But with Zac Lomax, all right, well, we've got some young fellas coming through. They've got some outstanding young kids coming through the system. They've got a couple of really nice young wingers that are emerging. Maybe they can go out and buy a winger.
Well, they're talking about Tuivasa.
Even Tuivasa with the money that he's commanding at the moment would be far less money than what Lomax future deals are on.
And Tuivasa gives them a fullback option too.
Gives him depth as a fullback, yeah.
Will Canterbury talk to Zac Lomax?
No, we can't. We haven't got that sort of cap money.
Okay. You've always said you get one blow up a year as a coach. Has Desi used his?
When I say we haven't got that cap money, we've got cap money. We haven't got cap money for that position.
Right.
We've got other priorities.
Okay. But if Zac Lomax was interested, could you twiddle the knobs?
Well, if he could play front row, I'd be knocking on his door tomorrow.
Zac, you don't want to play on the wing. How's props at you?
Yeah.
Yes, Desi. Now, would Desi be a good blow-up merchant? But I reckon you'd struggle to understand what Desi's saying when he blows up because you sort of struggle with his motor mouth pre-game. He'd spit all over everyone when he's blowing up, wouldn't he?
Yeah, look, we've all been there. We've all been there. And what I learned over my career was at the end of the day, you were probably wasting your time. You had to be really timely with that sort of outburst if it was going to have the effect that you wanted. And that's why I've always said you only get one of those a year, But as you get towards, or more experienced at it, you find that there's really no time for it. You don't need it. There's another way to deliver it and whatever you. So for Des, who's extremely experienced, and I've rated him as a coach his whole career, and he's a wonderful competitor, for him to feel the way he did, there was something in that game that was specifically either against instruction or against, what they had committed to, they hadn't delivered, what they had promised each other, they hadn't held true, or whatever it was, it really upset him, and he let them know it. There's an old thing I used to say, to coaches, particularly halftime talks and that sort of thing, just take a deep breath and understand, the ramifications of what you're about to do. And the one question I ask myself is, what do you want to say, and what do they need to hear? What do they need to hear right now? And that might be different to what you want to say.
Yeah.
What you really want to say, you can't say.
Cannot be published.
You can't say it because it's not going to have the effect that you want. It's your emotion, and once that happens, if they get a feeling that it's about you, then you're now on the way out. That's as simple as that. Now, I'm not saying that's what's happened to Des, but it's rule of thumb for me in talking to coaches and how they address players and how they talk teams is ask yourself the question, and always take your time going down to the dressing room at halftime if you're upset or you're emotional, and we all get there. But at some point, you need to ask the question, what do they need to hear? Not do I want to say? Because what I want to say mightn't be what they need to hear right now. And we've all made the mistake. All coaches make the mistake, and you learn by your mistakes. You learn by it. But really, it's what do they need to hear right now? And that goes for parenting. That goes for fucking life. It's just how it is.
About
It's just how it is.
That must be hard.
What do they need to hear?
That must be hard.
That doesn't mean going soft on them. It can be the exact opposite. But what do they actually need to hear
Well,
right now?
what do the Titans need to hear after the game on the weekend?
Des has obviously thought they needed to hear that.
Yeah.
All right, that I've been nice and I've been encouraging and I've been on your side and I've been finding excuses for you and I've been trying to cajole you along, and trying to catch a little squirrel, and I'm, trying to be, complimentary. I'm trying to build your confidence. I don't want to dent your confidence. And I don't know what's going on up there. I don't know. But whatever it is, he decided they needed to hear this. And maybe that's what they needed to hear.
Probably
We'll
is.
find out this week, right? But it's a good rule of thumb for all coaches at all levels and even parents. And I'm not giving parenting advice.
Parenting advice with Phil. This is
not.
good.
I'm not. But, sometimes it's a matter of what do they need to hear, not what I want to say.
I need to remember that. I'm going to burn that into my head.
Well, take that to the golf course, mate. When you hit a bad shot and then you're going to go and hit your next shot and that sort of thing. What do I need to be thinking? What am I thinking? What should I be thinking? Right? It's the same with players on the field. What am I thinking? Who's got the ball? Where are we? What's my job? That's all I need to think about. Really, anything else is just baggage I don't need. I don't need the emotion. I don't need all the outside influences. I don't need to care what's happening over there or whatever. I don't need to care what's happening. All I can do is work on what I can control. And it's the same with that. And the really great coaches have got that ability to say the right thing at the right time in the right tone to get the response that they want. And the emotional response over time settles down to where now, after the game or during the week, come here.
Yeah.
This is what I was unhappy about. Right?
So when did you decide as a coach that what they needed to hear was a proper blow-up?
Yeah, probably some examples. I think I've told this story. The funniest one was I was at Penrith.
Kick the bucket.
I kicked the bucket
and broke your foot.
Broke my toe.
But when would you decide, righto, it's time? What would make you decide that?
I blew up some times where I shouldn't have.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. Early on in your career. But there are times where it's hard to control that emotion, but in the end you work out later that was wrong. They didn't need that. I didn't help that situation. I didn't help them with that. They needed to hear this. Right now they needed it. Right now I need to be in their corner. Right now, right now they need to hear that. They think they're going good. They're not. This is what's coming your way. This is where I see. Ricky Stewart expressed a little bit of in his post-match press conference the other day. We led 18-0 playing poorly. but our body language was that we were way on top and doing really well when we weren't.
Mm.
And that's why the shock came and suddenly we got beat 36-22. So if he could have got them at half-time at 18-0 and told them what they needed to hear, all right, not celebrating with them the fact that they're 18-0 in front and saying, look, we're lucky to be in front. We're not doing anything that we need to do. They only need one sniff here and we're going to be in trouble. If he could have got to them, if it had been quarter time, he could have gone down and told them what they needed to hear. That's a good example.
Yeah.
You know, he said, we got to 18-0 playing poorly.
Yeah. So what you're saying is sometimes a blow-up or a hard conversation is better when you're actually going okay or when you think you're going okay.
Yeah. The big blow, sometimes too, if you have a big blow-up, when you really boil it down, you might have 18 players in front of you, but you're only talking to one or two of them, right? Those one or two players is the reason why I'm blowing up. Now, do we need to learn a lesson about what they've done wrong or what's happened there? Well, maybe, righto, but am I better off just, and that's what toilet cubicles are for. You take them around in the other room.
Have you pulled blokes into the toilet cubicle?
You have a stern conversation with them there, away from the rest of the group. I mean, over time, you learn all these things. Go and talk to the really good ones. Go and talk to the Wayne Bennett's, the really great man managers.
I think you're in that category.
And they'll tell you. And I'm quite sure that those Melbourne Storm players must look at the TV vision of Bellamy blown up in the box and then compare that to what he said down in the dressing room, and it might be two different emotions altogether, but because he's calmed down, he's gone downstairs and he's now going to deliver a message that's actually going to help them. So half-time you need to help them. And sometimes that's saying nothing. Everything's going good or what have you. But sometimes they're really struggling. They're well behind, and it's going to be hard. We've got players injured. We've got a player in the sin bin. Referees on our case. There are plenty of things but I need to give them something that's going to help them to actually help them get through this next 40 minutes. Right? I can deal with the other stuff Monday night in review. I can deal with that in the preparation for the game. Right now, I need to help. That's why you'll see really coaches will come down to the sideline. They'll pull a bloke off. They'll come down to the sideline and sit down, and then you'll find them sitting next to him. And then you'll find their arm around him. And you don't know what's going on in their lives. You don't know what's happening and that sort of thing. And I've done that with players that have just burst out crying, on the side because they've got other stuff going on you don't know about. Well, come on, mate.
It's a hard game.
You
talked about when you have a blow up, you're essentially directing it potentially at a couple of players. You don't single them out in a team environment, do you?
Well, sometimes if there's a lesson to be learned from it. I mean, if your culture is strong and your relationship was strong, there's nothing wrong with criticising a player.
Okay.
Nothing wrong with that at all.
So you've done that?
Oh yeah. And generations change, all right, and the way you speak to players has changed, but. Having a hard conversation with a player either in private or in front of the team. Come on, mate, you're better than that. It's kind of like you're kind of like with one hand and arm around them with the other. But that's just the nature of your relation. Some you can't do it to. Some I would break him if I blew up.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm not going to go there with him. Right. I'm going to put my arm around him and say, come on, mate, don't worry going about that. We need to get on with this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I've had plenty of examples of that over the years where you're constantly building up self-belief and self-confidence. So actually singling them out for a criticism, like if you're going to single someone out, it's usually your best player. Yeah, right. The one you're closest to and the one you have the close relationship with.
So give Andrew Johns a spray and he'd be all right.
There was a thing I listened to many years ago. It was a tape put out by the Lakers basketball coach, Pat Riley. Yeah. Very, very interesting tape talking about relationships with players and different things and that. And he talked about in a team review tearing strips off his number one player in front of the group. And the number one player afterwards thanked him and said that would be good for the team. If they know that you're going to be prepared to say that to me, it holds them. Oh. Yeah, and that's the relationship you can have with a player. So sometimes you're hardest on your best. But you're sending a message to others as well.
Yeah, I've often wondered that.
But if you're blowing up at the team because little Billy's done something wrong over there, so everyone else is copping the barrage when you really just need to be talking to him. Yeah. It's something he's done that's put us in this position, or something he promised he wouldn't do and he did, or he missed his assignment or whatever, that sort of thing. And And the coach that gets emotional about that and blows up at that, well, then he's got to learn a different way. All this gets back to what Des did. Des would know now whether, A, that was the right thing or the wrong thing to do. But I'd imagine he'd have had a strong think about that before he went down to the dressing room, and he felt that's what was needed. And I'm happy to go with whatever he did because he's very experienced and he knows what he's doing.
I thought this is so interesting.
But the result will be how they come out of it this week.
And you'll see it on Sunday footy against the Cowboys in Townsville, and the Cowboys last weekend themselves.
Did any of that make sense?
Brilliant. I love it. One more on that. I've often wondered, like the Chicago Bulls at the height of their success.
Yep.
I'd imagine coaching those egos would be so hard. Or maybe not. Maybe they were easy to coach because they were such a great unit. But imagine coaching Jordan and Pippen and Rodman.
That was Jackson. Wasn't
Phil
it?
Jackson.
Phil Jackson, yeah.
What a job.
Yeah. I read some of his stuff too, and it's incredible. And, obviously we saw the great documentary on the Chicago Bulls and Jordan and all that. But, yeah, managing players and that's a different environment. It's a different planet. US professional sports and everything across there to what we are here. But
geez, you'd have to
we all aspire to do the best that we can. And as coaches, we aspire to make a difference. We aspire to help, to inspire, to build confidence, to build knowledge, to build team spirit and camaraderie and connectivity and be a support system and on and off the field. And after the careers are over, you're still counselling players you coached 30 years ago at different times, who come to you for advice or what have you. That's the relationship you have.
Well, that's the sign of a strong relationship.
Yeah. It mightn't have been a good relationship back then even. But over time, they kind of get it, That's like the old saying, the older I got, the smarter my father got.
Yeah, that's very...
I didn't believe him when I was a teenager or in my 20s, but...
This has been
later
awesome.
in life, I worked out, he actually was pretty cluey. He knew what he was talking about.
I love it when you talk like this. Thursday night footy is Melbourne versus Brisbane. Melbourne at home. Now, I heard you talking 100% footy about this record. When Cam and Cronk and Billy and all those blokes were playing up at Suncorp, they never got beaten. But Melbourne would beat Brisbane at Suncorp all the time.
Yeah.
3 big inclusions for Melbourne: Munster back, Hughes back, Welsh back. And one change for Brisbane with the giant, Ben Tukura, named to make his NRL debut off the bench. And they're saying he is the biggest NRL player ever.
I think he played the day I went to watch Tristan Sailor. Would he have played in that game?
Yes, he would have.
Because Broncos had players with Wynnum and they had players with Logan. Is that right?
Yep.
I think he played for Logan.
He may well have.
Yeah.
Is he as big as everyone says?
He is. He is. Yeah, he's a monster.
So he's in and he'll make his debut off the bench.
He's a big thing.
It's Thursday night footy. What a way to start the round.
My phone's not working because I'm on Wi-Fi for some reason here. Try and change it. I can't bring up the website. Anyway, keep going. Yeah, that's a hard one. I'm going to go Storm coming off the bye.
Melbourne to win. Okay.
Yep.
No Reece Walsh. Early Friday, Bulldog Rooster. This one is at Accor, correct?
Yep.
Blake Wilson comes back. Good player, Blake Wilson. Josh Adokar, though, concussion. Jacob Preston, broken jaw. Now, I heard you say he doesn't need surgery.
No, he doesn't need surgery. He's got an undisplaced fracture, hairline fracture there. The only discomfort is he can't chew. So he's on liquid meals there for a while.
Not amber ones.
He actually asked to play this week.
He looks like the toughest young kid I've ever seen.
He's a terrific young kid. He actually asked to play. And Curtis Moran got suspended for 2 weeks as well. So a few changes there.
Kitoni Katonga. Now, if you've seen the New South Wales Cup team for Canterbury go around the last couple of years, you've seen him in the back row.
So his Christian name is, it looks like Kidione.
Yeah.
It's pronounced Gideon.
Oh, Gideon.
Gideon.
Right.
In Fiji. So it's Gideon Katonga. And, good young player. He debuted with West Tigers, I think, last year, but only got 2 minutes. He come on right at the back end of the game. They had an injury thing. And
I do remember that.
They didn't expose him. So he's virtually on debut. He's certainly on debut with our club. I think they've named him on the bench, have they?
Yep.
Is he part of the 17?
Yep.
I haven't looked at the list. So he'll be interesting. And I think Chris Patolo's been named in the squad somewhere, has he?
Chris Patolo is in 22.
Yeah. So Chris missed virtually all of last year with a chronic knee bruising issue that's taken a long time to get right. He's had 3 games back in New South Wales Cup. I don't know if he'll play this week, but certainly in the next couple of weeks, I think maybe we get him a run back in the NRL side. So
Good.
I know they're looking closely at him. So it's a good sign that they've named him in the 20.
Promising young player.
24 there, yeah.
Lindsay Collins is back for the Roosters, by the way.
Yeah, no, they're strong. Tipping a lot of rain in Sydney this week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah.
A lot of rain.
Like 60 mils on Friday.
Yeah, a lot of rain.
That means we might be playing in the wet at Newcastle on Friday night. Friday night footy, Knights, Dragons. I have a vivid memory of us going up there a couple of years back and the Dragons ambushed them. Remember? They bashed them.
Dragons and Knights always have great rivalry.
Jackson Hastings is back. Tyson Gamble is out. So they made a change there in the halves. Now, they did lose Dane Gagai last week before kickoff. They also get Leo Thompson back. So a number of players returning for Newcastle. Just one change to the 17 for the Dragons, who beat Manly last week. I mean, seriously, who could have tipped that? Michael Molo in, Hame Sele to the bench.
Well, firstly, I told you Dragons wouldn't be wooden spooners. And secondly, I've told you a number of times I can't understand why they don't win more games.
You've been saying that for quite a while now.
Yeah, and they're going to win more games. Big, strong, aggressive sort of group. The Manly Dragon game wasn't all that good. Both teams were very, very poor, I thought, on the day. Dragons did enough to win. They'll need to improve on that. And Knights coming off the defeat over there by the Warriors, getting a couple of players back. It's a hard one because, Dragon could just get there and stand over them, which they're going to do to a lot of teams. They're big, aggressive, experienced players. Ben Hunt in really good form. I think Knights have brought Hastings back, have they?
Hastings playing 7, Cogger playing 6.
Yeah, so they've made some changes. They've gone without Gamble. Gee whiz. What's up with Gamble? Is he injured or?
They dropped him.
Did they? Well, it starts and ends with a fullback, doesn't it? I'm going to tip Dragon.
Wow. Okay. Didn't see that one coming.
Why?
Thought you tipped Newcastle at home.
Yeah, I don't know about... Yeah, I don't know.
Well, Friday night footy.
I
Must
like
watch.
Tyson Gamble.
Yeah.
He's competitive.
Wonder why they dropped him.
I don't know. Cogger's a good player too. Well, Cogger played halfback last week.
Played halfback, yeah. So Hastings has come back.
Hastings played reserve grade the last couple of weeks. They had a couple of easy wins.
Now this game, Saturday, 3:00, Rabbit Warrior.
Mm-hmm.
Fair dinkum. Canterbury should have beaten the Rabbits last week. Johnston out, so Zac Thompson's in.
Yep.
Kepi's back.
Yep.
Hawkins stays.
Yep.
Charles is in, as we said. 200th game for Roger. Tomato Martin's coming to the team. He'll play at 5'8" for Luke Metcalf. He's got a broken leg, poor bloke.
Yep.
And Chanel Harris-Tavita in the wider reserves. Murata Niokore in the second row. Kirk Capel's out with concussion.
Yep. Warrior.
Warriors are outsiders.
No hesitation.
Warriors are outsiders.
What do you mean outsiders?
With the bookies.
Seriously?
Yes. How about this? I'm heading to Brookvale to call this for radio on Saturday. I cannot wait. Now, do you know last weekend there were only 1,000 tickets left for this game, a week out.
Right.
And they'll be gone now, unless the rain scares people. Manly, Penrith, baby. Daly Cherry Evans will become Manly's all-time leading player by appearances. He equaled Cliff last weekend, Cliffy Lyons. He goes to 310 this week.
Yep.
Same team pretty much. James Fisher-Harris is back for the Panthers. A massive in. Of course, Schneider stays in it. He played good, Brad Schneider.
Good player.
Yeah.
Good player. I was surprised he went to the UK, actually. I was actually watching him closely when he was at the Raiders, and I thought he was on contract. And then he went off to England. And I thought, oh, maybe I'm missing something, or they've sent him there for a bit of experience. And next thing, I didn't even know he was available. He's come back to Panther to play that replacement. He's a good player. Very, very steady player.
Gus, Manly were dreadful last week. They could not be anywhere near that bad at home this week.
Well, you wouldn't think so. And let's just look back at why that might have been the case. If you remember the previous Sunday, Eel played Sea Eagle at Parramatta in front of a big crowd, and I described it as a Sunday shootout. It was an exhilarating, fast-paced, hard-hitting, lead-changing Sunday afternoon of football, and I think both sides came out of that worse for wear. I think it blunted Parramatta and it blunted Manly. I think I could feel that about Manly last week. Do you know what? Last week we were out there on Sunday to call that game, right? And I'm down on the sideline, and the reserve grade game was on. The New South Wales Cup game was on. I was talking to a couple of Manly people. How you going? Yeah, good. Blah 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 blah. Two of them, unsolicited, said, "Oh, we've got to go to Wollongong next week. We hate Wollongong. We never win at Wollongong." Oh, they were talking about it before the Parramatta game.
Why didn't you tell me that?
Not players but people around the club.
They gave it away.
People around the club saying, "Oh, it's a hoodoo. We can't win it." I said, "You know what? The rule about the hoodoo, don't talk about the hoodoo."
Too late.
I said, "You'll be right." No, man. They were worried about the Wollongong trip before the Parramatta game.
You kept that under wraps. I'd have tipped them last week.
I get lots of inside mail, mate. I don't tell anyone.
No, you don't. You don't tell anyone a thing.
But I could feel both Manly and Parramatta being a bit flat after that thing. Parramatta less so because they won, but then they lost Moses. Eagles, yeah.
Well, Manly scored after 2 minutes down in Wollongong.
Which I've seen that happen so often. When you're favourites and you score in the first minute, you've got no idea how often that softens your attitude and your resolve. Honestly. I've played with teams that were ranked underdogs, and I said, the best thing we can do is let them score in the first minute. That'll soften them right. They won't see what's coming next. Mate, when you've watched enough football, honestly, you can see it's like you've watched the movie before.
I know.
It's kind of like, it's incredible. As a coach, I used to love it if we tackled for the first 5 minutes. If we didn't have the ball.
And didn't let them in.
Didn't let them in, but it's just funny like that. And Seagulls, and that can give them a false sense of security. And after that, they were terrible.
Terrible.
Dragons were much better. Dragons dropped a lot of ball.
Mate, Turbo to Barry.
Virtually begged to be beaten, but Manly just didn't have the energy to do it. And I think there were a few games on the weekends where teams did not play anywhere near as well as what they have been doing and looked a little bit, so we're a month in, starting to get niggly injuries. You've had some 5-day turnarounds, some 7-day turnarounds, maybe a bye or what. I don't know. It's just we sort of get to this little thing and a couple of sides have hit a bit of a flat spot. They could easily bounce back next week. But Panther doesn't seem to hit a flat spot. And they've got Fisher Harris coming back. And if ever Rooster was going to beat Panther, it was last week. But I said Panther will beat them because they just work too hard, and they'll work too hard for Seagull. They'll have a plan for Tom. A milestone game for Daly Cherry Evans, and congratulations to him. But I'm not sure that'll be enough to beat Panther, even at Brookvale, Four Pines Park.
Okay. Daly Cherry Evans might play 400.
Yep.
Dolphins, West Tigers. This is a tantalising prospect. So Max Plath with that shocking hip drop. He's suspended. Ray Stone starts. Kenny Bromwich has been 18th man. So he comes in. And Jaden Sullivan comes in for Lachlan Galbin. And young Latu Fainu is going to make an NRL debut off the bench. Another youngster.
Talented young player. Yep. I'll go with the old coach, Mr. Bennett, to beat the young coach, Mr. Benji. Great mates.
Benji's coaching against his brother.
Yeah.
That couldn't have happened very often.
Yeah.
Cowboys.
Did Brian Smith ever coach against his brother?
Dunno. Tony.
Did Brian ever coach against...
He played for St George, didn't he?
Yeah, but Brian went off to coach Parramatta, didn't he?
Oh,
Was Tony Smith
I reckon
still
he would have gone to England.
Did he?
Maybe.
We're trying to think of it.
I'll ask David Middleton to find that out.
We're trying to find an example of someone coaching against their brother.
Yeah.
We've got coaches coaching against their son, coaching against their brother.
And then there was one the other week as a coach coached a father and then a son with John and Max Platt.
Did John Cartwright coach against Bryce Cartwright? No, I don't think so.
Oh, well, Ivan's coached against Nathan.
That's father-son. Oh, yeah. Well, John and Bryce were
What's his nephew?
Yeah.
If you know any of those.
Brother, coach against a brother.
Wouldn't have thought so.
I wouldn't think so, would you?
Cowboys unchanged. Fair dinkum. Lift. He's Jojo Fafita and Harley Smith-Shields coming. He's dropped both the wingers. It's a straight. Of all positional changes, both the wingers are gone. What else is there I can tell you about the Titans? Fafita played 55 minutes last week, and he should be sweet to start the game, I think, this week. Has he been named to start? He's been named on the bench, but he looked okay. Townsville.
Cowboy.
And then, to brush home, what about this one? Raiders, Para. Marriott into the starting team for Hosking is out with concussion. Sasungi to the bench. Whitehead remains out. And Bailey Simonson's in the centres for Morgan Harper. And no Bryce Cartwright. So, actually, you took Moses out, but you also lost a bit of creativity with Cartwright.
Yeah. I think, I said it last week and I'll say it again, Moses is such an integral part of that Parramatta thing. I just don't think they can make up for it. And Raider, I'd imagine, have had a few toilet cubicle talks this week.
Get in a cubicle.
Confined space.
Do you reckon Ricky's got
we used to call them the phone booth talk.
Has Ricky got a cubicle constructed at his office?
There'll be a phone booth down there he might have dragged a few into.
Okay.
I don't think he'll put up with it. I'll go Raider.
A bumper show today, Gus. You absolute great stuff. 10 out of 10 from you in the old Rugby League week. Yep. 10 out of 10. And that's Six Tackles with Gus. Make sure you join us Thursday, Friday, Sunday. Some great footy this weekend. We'll talk to you next week.
This year, NRL on 9 is your one-stop shop for all footy.
That's right, Freddie. Not about the highlights. Action. 7 days a week.
Billy and Gus podcast. Get that on your drive on the way home. Immortal Behaviour. Grab a seat on the couch for that. And, of course, my favourite, Freddie in the Own.
The best footy brains, the biggest games.
Don't trust the algorithm. Subscribe to NRL on 9 and get all your entertainment there.